Welcome, and settle yourself into a place where you feel calm and comfortable. If you have a blanket nearby, now is the perfect moment to pull it over yourself, letting its warmth wrap gently around you. Tonight, we are traveling back to the banks of the Nile, to the world of ancient Egypt. A world of golden palaces, towering temples, and endless desert sands stretching out beneath the burning sun. It is a time filled with rituals, gods, and the unshakable belief that kings ruled, not just by strength but by divine favor. But before you let your mind drift into images of treasure, pyramids, and glory, let me remind you, life as a pharaoh was not nearly as easy as you might imagine. Yes, the crown glittered with gold, and the people bowed whenever the king appeared. Yet behind that shimmering image was a life of constant pressure, endless duty, and heavy burdens that few could endure. So tonight, we will step into the sandals of a young prince born in Tannis during a time between 1090 and 1060 BCE. We will imagine his life from the moment of birth through education, rivalry, coronation, and finally, betrayal. We will move slowly and gently, describing each stage of his journey, not rushing, but letting the details unfold like the slow turning of the Nile's current. As you listen, you may find yourself drifting between curiosity and calmness. That is the rhythm of this story. It is a history to be heard softly, to quiet your mind, and perhaps to help you drift off into sleep. And before we begin, if you enjoy these calming journeys into the past, remember to subscribe to this channel so you can return for more stories of forgotten worlds. You can even leave a comment sharing where you are listening from tonight. It is always a joy to know where along the modern world these ancient echoes are reaching. Now, let us begin with the very first moment of this pharaoh's life. Imagine yourself in Tannis, a city lying in the northeastern Nile Delta. The year is somewhere between 1090 and 1060 BCE. The air is heavy with the warm, earthy smell of river reeds, damp stone, and incense smoke curling slowly upward in the temple courtyards. The streets outside the palace are filled with the daily rhythm of ordinary Egyptians. Farmers carrying baskets of barley, women pounding grain into flour, fishermen returning with their catch from the Nile's shallow waters. Life outside the palace is hard, uncertain, and often short. Most children born in this time will never live to see adulthood. Yet inside the palace walls, a very different scene is unfolding. Here, in a chamber filled with flickering oil lamps, and attended by priests, midwives, and servants, a child has just entered the world. The sound of his first cry echoes against walls painted with images of lotus flowers, falcons, and protective gods. This is no ordinary child. This is a prince of Egypt. The moment of birth is not private or quiet. It is a public and sacred event. Priests chant hymns to Hathor, goddess of motherhood, and to Bez, the squat, lion-faced god believed to guard children from harm. Offerings of honey cakes, milk, and incense are made on small altars nearby. Every movement, every word, is meant to ensure that the newborn survives and thrives, for the survival of a royal child is seen as the survival of Egypt itself. For most children of this era, birth is a moment of danger. Infection, weakness, or simple chance could end a life before it truly begins. But for a prince, every resource is used to protect him. He is immediately swaddled in soft linen, far finer than anything the children of farmers would ever touch. A nurse carries him to a carved wooden cradle, decorated with protective hieroglyphs, where amulets are placed nearby to keep away evil spirits. And yet, despite the luxury, there is distance. His mother, the queen, does not cradle him for long. A royal woman's life is filled with ceremony, politics, and endless duties. She may look at him briefly, perhaps whisper a prayer for his strength, but soon he is placed into the care of wet nurses and attendants. To him, in these earliest years, the women who feed him and rock him to sleep will feel far more like family than the distant queen whose blood he shares. For a child, This might feel confusing, though he is too young to understand. The gentle hum of a nurse's lullaby will be his comfort, not his mother's voice. The touch of a servant's hand, not the queen's, will feel familiar. This is the reality of royal life. You are important to the kingdom, but you are not always important to the people who gave you life. Step outside the cradle for a moment and picture the world around him. The palace itself is not like the stone monuments we imagine today, but a grand structure of mud brick, painted white to reflect the sun. Courtyards are lined with columns, their tops painted with bright blue and green patterns to resemble papyrus. Plants. Pools filled with lotus flowers shimmer in the light. The air smells of roasted bread, of incense, and of the faint musk of animals kept in nearby courtyards. Beyond the palace walls lies a city alive with sound. Merchants shout prices for their goods, donkeys bray, children laugh and run barefoot through the dust. The Nile glitters nearby, its waters carrying boats loaded with grain, papyrus, and pottery. Yet for all its beauty, this is a world of harsh divides. The prince's cradle rests on clean linen, while just a short walk away, most children are born in reed huts, their mothers laboring with no priests or offerings, only the hope of survival. The prince will never know hunger in his early years, though many around him will. He will never wake to find his parents gone to disease or famine, though countless children will. Already, before he can even open his eyes fully, life has handed him a different set of cards. But privilege comes with expectation. From the very moment of birth, every gesture around him is a reminder. He is not just a child, he is a potential heir. Every prayer offered at his cradle is a prayer not only for his survival, but for Egypt's stability. Every gift brought by courtiers, a necklace, a carved toy, a jar of honey, is less about affection and more about politics, a way of securing favor with the royal family. And though he does not yet understand it, he is not alone in this. Somewhere, in another wing of the palace, other royal children are also growing up, each one with a claim, each one with ambition whispered into their ears by mothers and supporters. Already, though still a baby, he is part of a competition he cannot yet see. For now, though, his world is small and simple. The rhythm of the day is the rhythm of the Nile, waking at sunrise to the calls of servants, feeding in the cool of the morning, napping under woven shades to the sound of reed pipes. He will be carried to the gardens where the breeze rustles, through papyrus stalks, or to the temple courtyards where incense rises in steady streams. His earliest memories, though blurred and scattered, will be shaped by these details. The gleam of sunlight on gold jewelry, the hum of chanting voices, the endless footsteps of attendants moving around him. It might seem, at first, like a charmed existence, but here lies the first secret of being royal. The child belongs less to himself and more to the kingdom. His life is already planned, his path already drawn, and his choices limited by traditions older than memory. Even as he rests in the softest linens, the weight of Egypt's expectations is already pressing down, quietly, invisibly, yet unshakably. And so, in this way, his life begins. Not with play, not with closeness, but with ritual, duty, and distance. The gods are invoked, the people watch from afar, and the kingdom whispers about what this child might become. For now, he is only a baby, but soon, very soon, he will discover that being born royal is less a gift and more a trial. Imagine yourself a little older now. The first months of your life have passed, and your cries have softened into the gentle babble of a royal child learning to find his voice. You are still in the city of Tannis, still in the royal palace where the walls shimmer with paint, carvings, and the faint glow of oil lamps at night. Yet something is becoming clearer. The woman who feeds you, comforts you, and carries you through the gardens is not your mother. She is a wet nurse. In ancient Egypt, the role of the wet nurse was central to royal life. Queens were often too occupied with religious duties, political alliances, or ceremonial appearances to spend their days caring for infants. So the task was entrusted to women chosen with care. These women were not simply servants. They were selected for their health, their loyalty, and sometimes even their family connections. A royal child's survival depended on them. Picture the nurse who rocks you gently. She wears a linen dress, plain compared to the shimmering robes of the court ladies, yet clean and carefully maintained. Around her neck, she might carry an amulet of Taweret, the hippo-shaped goddess of childbirth and fertility, meant to keep both herself and you safe. Her arms are strong from years of daily work, and her voice hums with the simple songs that ordinary children across Egypt would hear in reed huts and mud brick homes. To you, she is mother. Her smell, her heartbeat, her steady rhythm of care, these are what you know best. The queen, your biological mother, visits rarely. Perhaps she looks at you fondly when ceremonies allow. Perhaps she kisses your forehead in the presence of courtiers. But her appearances are like brief flashes of sunlight through cloud. Warm for a moment, gone the next. The wet nurse, however, is constant. She is there when you wake in the dim morning light. She is there when you cry in the night. She is there when you first learn to take cautious steps across the smooth plaster floors. Now pause to compare this with the life of children outside the palace walls. Ordinary mothers nursed their own babies, often while working in the fields or grinding grain. They had no servants to carry burdens, no guards to ensure safety. Their children grew up barefoot in the dust, learning quickly how fragile life could be. Infant mortality was high. Sickness, hunger, or accidents often took children before they could speak. Yet for all the hardship, those children often had something you lack: closeness. They knew their mothers' faces, their fathers' voices. They grew up inside a circle of family. You, on the other hand, are surrounded by attendants and strangers. The palace is busy, filled with footsteps and voices that echo down long corridors. Every day, priests, scribes, soldiers, and petitioners move in and out of the courtyards. For a child, this can be overwhelming. Faces change often, but your wet nurse remains, steady as the Nile's flow. Her presence anchors you in this sea of ceremony and duty. As you grow, more caretakers join your small world. Tutors begin to arrive, though at first their lessons are gentle. They show you carved wooden toys in the shapes of animals, not only for play, but to train your hands and mind. Servants bring you small pets, perhaps a puppy or a monkey, as companions. These creatures are meant to delight you, but also to remind you of the wealth and power of your family. Every object you touch is carefully chosen to prepare you for the life expected of you. Still, the distance between you and your true parents remains. Your father, the Pharaoh, is a figure of almost mythical power. You hear his name whispered, in awe by courtiers, his image painted in brilliant colors on the walls of temples. But in your earliest years, he is little more than a stranger. Perhaps once or twice, you are carried into a grand hall to see him seated on his throne, his head adorned with the tall double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. You are told to bow, to stay quiet, to remember always that he is not only your father, but also the living representative of the gods. Imagine how confusing this must feel. Other children cry out for their fathers and climb onto their laps. You stand in awe, expected to act with dignity before you even understand what dignity means. To you, your father is distant, majestic, untouchable. The wet nurse, with her plain linen dress and simple songs, feels more real. But make no mistake, the role of the wet nurse is temporary. As you grow beyond infancy, the palace slowly reassigns your care. You are shifted from the arms of women to the strict supervision of tutors. Nurses still prepare your food and help you dress, but their importance fades. Their work is essential, but their names will never be remembered. They are shadows in the grand story of Egypt, yet without them, no pharaoh could survive long enough to sit on a throne. Think again of the contrast. Out in the villages, a child sits on the lap of his mother while she shapes clay or weaves baskets. He hears family stories passed down by grandparents. He watches older brothers and sisters play in the dust. His life is fragile, often short, but warm with familiar faces. Your life is secure, wrapped in linen and guarded by soldiers, but marked by absence. You belong to the state more than you belong to a family. This trade-off is one of the earliest lessons of royalty. Protection comes at the price of freedom. Luxury comes at the price of closeness. The crown you are expected to wear one day will shimmer brightly, but even now, in your first years of life, you begin to feel its weight in invisible ways. And so your childhood continues, guided by women whose names history will not record, yet who shape you more deeply than your own mother. They teach you comfort. They teach you rhythm. They keep you alive in the vulnerable years. Without them, Egypt might lose its heir before he can even learn to speak. With them, you live to see the next stage of your journey: rivalry, schooling, and the endless competition that defines the life of a royal child. The palace around you is both a sanctuary and a prison. Every corner reminds you that you are not unlike other children. And as the seasons turn, the Nile rises and falls, and the years pass gently by. You are slowly being prepared for the reality that lies ahead. For now, though, you rest in the arms of a wet nurse, drifting into sleep with the sound of her heartbeat steady against your ear. Outside, the city hums, the river flows, and the gods watch. You are a little older now, no longer an infant in swaddling cloths, but a small child learning to walk confidently through the long corridors of the palace at Tannis. The walls are painted with bright colours, the floors are polished smooth, and every corner seems to echo with footsteps and whispers. And slowly you begin to realise something important, something that will shape your entire childhood. You are not alone. Your father, the Pharaoh, does not belong to only one woman. He has many wives, and many of those wives are mothers to children just like you. Step outside your chambers and you might see them. A boy just a little taller than you, running with a carved wooden toy in hand. Another, younger than you, still clinging to the robes of his nurse. Yet another, almost your twin in age, staring at you with the same suspicious curiosity. These are your half-brothers, born of different mothers, but bound to you by the same father. In the palace, this is completely normal. For a king, many wives mean many heirs, and many heirs mean options. If one son grows weak, another may take his place. If one becomes sickly or unpopular, there is always a backup. To outsiders, this looks like security. To you, it feels like rivalry. Imagine the dining halls where you gather. You sit on low stools around small tables, eating bread made of emmer wheat and dipping it into bowls of lentils or honey. Servants pour cool water or beer into clay cups. On the surface, it looks peaceful, like a family meal. But beneath the polite gestures and shared food, the tension is thick. Each boy knows he is being watched. Each boy knows the priests, scribes, and courtiers whisper about who might one day be named crown prince. And every glance between brothers carries a question. Will it be you or me? At first, the rivalry is innocent. Children bicker over toys, or race each other in the gardens, or argue over who can recite their lessons more quickly. Yet the adults see these moments differently. Tutors note who shows discipline. Nurses whisper about which child cries the least. Priests observe who listens reverently during temple visits. Every action becomes evidence, a point added to a silent tally. You begin to learn that nothing you do is truly private. One day, your father visits the nursery. This is rare. He is too busy ruling Egypt to waste much time with children. But when he arrives, the room transforms. Servants kneel, nurses hush you all into silence, and your brothers gather quickly in neat rows. The Pharaoh's presence fills the chamber. His double crown glitters, his coal-lined eyes are sharp, and his voice is steady with command. He glances over each of you in turn. You stand straighter. Your brothers do too. Everyone is desperate to catch his eye, and here lies the heart of the rivalry. Your father may smile at one child today, but at another tomorrow. He may ask about one's lessons, but ignore another entirely. Each look, each word feels like a sign. You begin to live for those signs, searching for proof that you, not your brothers, are his favorite. The truth is harsher. Pharaohs rarely show open favoritism in early years. To them, sons are pawns to be moved on the board of politics. Some are destined to serve as priests, others as military leaders, and only one will be chosen as heir. Until then, you all live in a strange balance. Brothers in name, rivals in practice. Now pause to imagine how different this is from the life of children outside the palace. A farmer's son might have 3 or 4 siblings, not 10 or 20. They would share food, sleep side by side on mats, and fight over chores or scraps of meat. But their futures were clear. The eldest usually inherited the land, the younger ones worked alongside him, and together they survived. Rivalry existed, yes, but not at the same scale. For you, rivalry is destiny. As the years pass, the differences between your brothers become clearer. One excels at archery, his arrows always striking the straw target. Another masters reading and writing with speed, reciting hymns to the gods flawlessly. A third grows strong in body, wrestling with the palace guards to prove his strength. And then there is you. You are learning quickly, but you are also learning carefully. You know that standing out too boldly can make enemies, so you practice patience. Yet patience does not protect you from whispers. Older brothers scoff that you are too quiet. Younger brothers try to outshine you with boldness, and in the dark corners of the palace, their mothers whisper to them. Each queen, concubine, or favored wife wants her son to rise. They encourage rivalry, pushing their children forward, teaching them to smile sweetly in public but sharpen their ambitions in private. Even your own mother is caught in this game, though you rarely see her enough to hear her guidance. At festivals, the rivalry becomes even more obvious. Picture the grand ceremonies in Thebes, where your father rides in gilded boats along the Nile. You and your brothers stand in carefully arranged rows, dressed in linen robes, your heads shaved except for a side lock of youth. Crowds cheer, priests chant, incense rises into the air. To the people, you look like a perfect royal family, united under the sun, God's blessing. But inside, each child knows this is a performance. The cheers are not for you, not yet. They are for the future Pharaoh, and the question of who that will be hangs heavily in the air. And so your childhood becomes a constant balancing act. You must learn to smile with your brothers while keeping watch on them. You must share your tutors, your meals, your games, while knowing that someday, one of them will try to take everything from you. The palace teaches you early that trust is a dangerous luxury, but there is something else to consider. Rivalry sharpens you. Without it, you might grow lazy, content in comfort. With it, you learn discipline. You learn how to read a room, how to measure every word, how to sense when someone is plotting against you. These are the very skills a future pharaoh will need. In a strange way, your brothers are both your greatest threat and your greatest teachers. And so you grow, one of many royal sons, a single voice in a chorus of ambition. Every laugh, every frown, every whispered word becomes part of the silent contest. You are still a child, but already your life is not simple. Already, the throne looms ahead of you, glittering like a prize at the end of a long, dangerous race. For now, you go to sleep in your chamber, listening to the faint sounds of the palace outside. Somewhere down the corridor, one brother coughs, in his sleep. Another mumbles in a dream. You close your eyes, knowing that tomorrow you will wake again to the same game. Brothers by blood, rivals by destiny. You are 4 years old now. Old enough to walk without stumbling. Old enough to speak clearly. Old enough to begin learning. Childhood in the palace has never been ordinary, but from this point forward, it becomes something entirely different. The games of wooden toys and running in the courtyards come to an end. You are taken by servants one morning, dressed in a clean linen tunic, and led out of the familiar nursery. Where are you going, you wonder? The answer arrives quickly. You are going to school. this is no ordinary school. This is the school of princes, the place where the sons of the royal house are trained for futures that may lead them to temples, armies, or even the throne itself. The building is part of the palace complex, but it feels like another world. Gone are the colourful murals of gods and festivals. Here, the walls are simpler, marked with neat hieroglyphs and teaching charts. The air smells faintly of ink, papyrus, and chalk dust from ground limestone. You hear the scratching of reed pens, the chanting of lessons, and the sharp taps of a tutor's stick on the floor to command attention. The life of study begins early in Egypt. Even common children who are lucky enough to attend scribal schools start around the age of 5. But you, as a royal, start younger, and the expectations are much heavier. You are taught not just for your own sake, but for the sake of the kingdom. Every mistake feels like more than a personal failure. It feels like a small crack in the image of the pharaoh's household. Imagine sitting on the floor with a group of your brothers and cousins. Each child has a small wooden writing board coated in plaster and a bundle of reed pens. The tutor, a stern man with little patience for mistakes, begins the first lesson. He speaks slowly, reciting a line from a hymn to Amun, the great god of Thebes. You repeat it after him. Then you write it down in clumsy signs, scratching into the plaster. Your hand cramps. The reed pen splinters. You frown, but you do not cry. You learn quickly that crying earns you no sympathy here. Discipline is firm. Tutors in ancient Egypt believed that strictness built character. If you forgot your lines, you might be ordered to copy them again and again until your hand ached. If you grew restless and played with your pen, a light strike from the tutor's stick reminded you to focus. This was normal, accepted, even encouraged. To the Egyptians, discipline was love, and a ruler without discipline would bring only chaos. Your curriculum grows quickly. At first, it is reading and writing. You practice the elegant curves of hieroglyphs, the faster shorthand of hieratic, and later, even the practical demotic script used for administration. You memorize long lists of words, names of animals, plants, objects, gods, kings. You recite proverbs some thousands of years old already, teaching wisdom like, do not be greedy, for greed leads to disgrace, or respect your elders, for they carry knowledge like a library. These words are seeds planted in your mind, meant to guide your future choices. Mathematics follows. Numbers are written with simple strokes and symbols. A single line for 1, a heel bone sign for 10, a rope coil for 100. You learn to add and subtract with pebbles, then with ink on papyrus. Soon you are solving problems about measuring land, calculating grain rations, and dividing wages. These lessons are not abstract. They prepare you for the real work of ruling, taxes, harvests, construction. Every grain of wheat, every brick in a temple wall, every drop of water in the irrigation canals must be counted and managed. History is another subject. Tutors read to you from ancient texts, tales of mighty kings long gone. Nama, who united Upper and Lower Egypt. Khufu, who raised the Great Pyramid. Thutmose, who crossed deserts with his armies. These stories are not told for entertainment. They are told as reminders. You are not just a boy. You are part of a line stretching back for centuries. The weight of the ancestors rests on your shoulders, and you must learn from both their greatness and their failures. As the years pass, your training becomes harsher. By the time you reach 12 or 13, you are no longer treated as a small child. Now you are expected to act like a young man. Tutors drill you in public speaking, teaching you how to command attention with your voice. You practice standing tall, delivering orders with authority, answering questions with confidence. At first, your words stumble, but slowly, steadily, you find rhythm, and then comes military education. The school of princes does not only shape scribes, it shapes warriors. You rise early, before the sun, to train with weapons. First, A bow. You stand in the sandy courtyard, stringing the weapon with care, aiming at straw targets. Arrows fly, sometimes striking, sometimes missing. The tutor does not praise your hits. He only corrects your mistakes. Then the spear. You learn to thrust, to block, to march in formation. Wooden practice spears bruise your arms, but your body grows stronger. Later, the chariot awaits, a skill that separates nobility from common soldiers. Driving a chariot requires balance, courage, and steady hands. The horses snort and pull. Dust rises around you, and your heart pounds as you guide them in tight circles. Through all of this, rivalry does not fade. Your brothers are with you in class, in drills, in every exercise. One may excel at mathematics, another at archery, another at public speaking. Each success is noted by the tutors, each failure recorded. The competition is silent but constant. You are reminded daily that one day only one of you may rule. This is not just education. It is a tournament that lasts through your youth. At night, when the lessons are over, you sometimes dream of simpler lives. You think of children outside the palace, running through the fields, laughing, free to play without the weight of dynasties on their shoulders. You wonder if they envy you, with your fine clothes, your servants, your endless food. But you know the truth. Your life is not truly yours. It belongs to Egypt, and yet, not everything is harsh. There are moments of joy. When you master a difficult passage of hieroglyphs, the tutor nods approvingly. When your arrow strikes the center of the target, your brothers clap reluctantly. When you recite a hymn to Amun flawlessly in the temple, the priests smile and the incense smells sweeter. These victories, though small, are what keep you going. Years pass in this way. Lessons, drills, ceremonies, endless repetition. Slowly, you transform. You are no longer just a boy born into the palace. You are becoming a prince molded by tradition, sharpened by rivalry, and trained for a future where every skill may mean survival. Childhood slips quietly away, replaced by duty. The school of princes does not end when you are ready. It ends when the kingdom is ready for you. And as you leave your teenage years behind, you begin to sense that the tests ahead will no longer be written on papyrus or practiced in courtyards. They will be written in the blood and dust of real life, where failure is final. By now, you are 14 years old. Childhood feels like a distant dream. The nursery, the toys, the gentle laughter of nurses rocking you to sleep. All of that is gone. You stand taller now. Your voice deepens, and your tutors treat you no longer as a child, but as a young man. The truth is simple. You are being shaped into a ruler, and rulers do not have playtime. From the moment the first light of dawn touches the walls of the palace, your day begins. Servants wake you with warm water for washing. A small breakfast of bread, figs, and watered beer is placed before you. There is no lingering, no lounging. The schedule is fixed, and every hour is accounted for. By the time the common people are just beginning their work in the fields, you are already seated before your tutors. The lessons now are far beyond the simple reading and writing of your childhood. You study legal codes, lists of precedents carved on stone stelae, and decrees issued by pharaohs centuries before you were born. You must memorize them, not just to recite, but to understand. A ruler must judge disputes fairly. He must know the difference between tradition and innovation. Your tutors drill you with imaginary cases, two farmers quarreling over land boundaries, a merchant caught cheating in the marketplace, a priest demanding more offerings for his temple. You listen, carefully weigh the evidence, and deliver your verdict. Sometimes your judgment pleases the tutors. Sometimes they shake their heads. Each mistake is another reminder that one day your decisions will not only shape classrooms, but kingdoms. Mathematics grows harder too. You solve problems about flood levels of the Nile, calculating how much farmland will be fertile and how much will lie barren. You learn how to measure stone blocks for building projects, how to count workers' wages, how to distribute grain in times of shortage. None of these lessons are hypothetical. One day, thousands will depend on your accuracy. A single miscalculation could starve a city or leave a temple half-built. Then there is history. You study not just the triumphs but also the failures. Kings who grew too proud and lost their thrones. Generals who underestimated their enemies and saw their armies destroyed. Pharaohs who neglected the temples and lost the support of the gods. These cautionary tales are told to you again and again, so that their mistakes might never be repeated. When the lessons end, your body must be trained as much as your mind. Playtime is replaced by physical drills. You run along the palace courtyards, your bare feet pounding the stone floors. You practice wrestling, learning how to grapple and throw an opponent twice your size. The guards, strong men hardened by years of service, are your sparring partners. They do not go easy on you. Bruises mark your arms and legs, but you learn. Resilience. Then comes archery, more serious now than ever. The bow is not just a symbol of war. It is a symbol of kingship itself. A pharaoh who cannot bend the bow and strike his target loses honor. You spend hours under the hot sun, pulling the bowstring until your fingers ache. Arrows thud into straw targets, one after another, until your shoulders burn. Slowly, your aim improves. Slowly, the tutors nod. The spear follows. A long, heavy weapon, difficult to master. You thrust against wooden dummies, learning to pierce. Through shields, you practice marching in formation with other youths, stepping in rhythm, spears held steady. The sound of feet striking the ground in unison becomes familiar, almost comforting. Discipline is everything. A broken line means defeat. But the most prestigious training is with the chariot. Imagine the thrill as two horses surge forward. Dust, rising beneath their hooves, the reins tight in your hands. You stand on the wooden platform, balancing as the wheels rattle across uneven ground. At first, you nearly fall. The horses are powerful, quick, and not always obedient, but you learn. You learn to guide them with small movements, to keep steady as you draw a bow and release an arrow at full speed. A royal prince on a chariot is not simply a rider. He is a symbol of divine power, swift as the sun god Ra crossing the sky. Day after day, the training continues. You grow leaner, stronger, more skilled, but you also grow more tired. There are no breaks, no afternoons spent idly dreaming by the Nile. Even your moments of rest are filled with rehearsals of etiquette, lessons in diplomacy, and endless ceremonies. Priests teach you how to approach the gods correctly, how to purify yourself before entering a temple, how to offer incense with steady hands. Courtiers teach you how to greet foreign ambassadors, when to bow, when to speak, when to remain silent. Every gesture is a language, every glance a test. All the while, your brothers remain at your side. The competition never stops. If you falter in your lessons, they notice. If your arrow misses the target, they smirk. If your chariot sways too much, they whisper to their mothers. And yet, if you do too well, they grow bitter. To succeed is to invite jealousy. To fail is to invite scorn. The balance is delicate, and every day feels like walking a narrow path above sharp stones. At night, when you finally return to your chambers, you sometimes lie awake staring at the painted ceiling. Scenes of gods and stars look down at you. You think of the farmers outside the palace, who rise with the sun, toil in the fields, and fall asleep with weary but simple hearts. Their lives are hard, yes, but they are their own. Yours is bound by duty, bound by expectation. You are not allowed to fail, not allowed to rest, not allowed to play. You are being shaped into something larger than yourself, whether you want it or not. And yet, there is pride. When you hold the bow steady and strike the target's center, you feel a rush of certainty. When you recite ancient hymns perfectly before the priests, you feel the weight of history lifting you up. When your chariot wheels cut smoothly across the training field, dust flying, you glimpse the image of a future pharaoh. In those moments, you understand why the training is relentless. Egypt cannot afford a weak ruler, and so you accept the endless lessons, the aching muscles, the weary eyes. This is the price of power. The School of Princes is no longer about childhood learning. It is about transformation. Every day you are less a boy and more a leader. Less a child and more a symbol. The crown is still far away, resting on your father's head, but the path toward it grows clearer. And though playtime is gone forever, what replaces it is a vision that few in all of history will ever experience. The chance to hold the destiny of an entire civilization in your hands. You close your eyes, drifting into sleep, your body sore, but your mind sharper than ever. Tomorrow the cycle begins again. Tomorrow you will train, you will study, you will compete. And tomorrow, just as today, you will take one more step toward the throne of Egypt. The years of training pass steadily, like the slow but unstoppable current of the Nile. You grow taller, stronger, and wiser, though the endless hours of lessons and drills leave little room for joy. You are used to the rhythm of palace life. Now, wake at dawn, study law and history, train your body, and learn the art of kingship in 1,000 subtle ways. You know your role. You are one of many sons of the Pharaoh. Important, yes, but not the most important. That honor belongs to your older brothers, the ones born before you, the ones expected to carry the crown. Or at least, that is what you always believed. One day, word spreads quietly through the palace corridors. Servants walk faster, whispering to one another. Guards stand at attention with greater stiffness. The air feels different, heavier, as though everyone knows a secret except you. By mid-morning, a royal messenger arrives at your chamber. He bows and announces that your presence is required in the great audience hall. This is unusual. Princes are not often summoned unless there is a festival, a ceremony, or an announcement of national importance. You dress quickly, robes smoothed by servants, a golden collar clasped around your neck. The corridors stretch before you, lined with painted walls that tell the victories of past kings. You walk beneath their gazes, feeling smaller than ever. Chiku. Audience hall is vast, its high columns painted with lotus flowers and papyrus reeds. The smell of incense curls through the air. Priests stand in lines, chanting softly, their voices rising and falling like the tide. Courtiers cluster in groups, murmuring but keeping their eyes fixed on the throne at the far end of the hall. And there, seated in majesty, is your father, the Pharaoh. You rarely see him. Most of your childhood has been spent in the care of tutors and guardians. Your father is a distant figure, both majestic and intimidating, almost more god than man. His presence fills the chamber, his golden headdress glinting in the shafts of sunlight that filter through the roof. You bow deeply, as protocol demands. The chamber grows quiet, every eye turning toward you. The Pharaoh raises his hand, a gesture of command, and silence spreads like a wave. His voice, when it comes, is steady and formal. Today, before the gods, before my court, and before the people of Egypt, I name my heir. The words hang in the air. Everyone holds their breath. You feel your heart pound in your chest. Of course, you expect the name of your eldest brother. He has always been the one. He has seniority, and seniority usually decides the throne. Perhaps you think your father will choose the second brother instead. Both of them are older. Both of them are legitimate. That is the way things should be. But then, your father speaks again. I name my son. He pauses, his eyes scanning the hall. You. For a moment, time itself seems to stop. Did you hear correctly? You lift your head slightly, unsure whether your ears deceive you. Yet the expression on the faces around you confirms it. The priests are startled. The courtiers whisper furiously, and your brothers are pale with rage. It makes no sense. Tradition dictates the eldest son inherits the crown. If not the firstborn, then the second. Rarely does a younger son leapfrog over his brothers. And yet, here you are, standing in the great hall, declared heir to the throne of Egypt. Your father explains nothing. He only says, "It is the will of the gods." His words carry finality. No one dares question him openly, but you can feel the anger radiating from your brothers. Their hands curl into fists. Their eyes burn with hatred. They will never forget this day, never forgive it. The court disperses after the announcement, but you remain in a daze. Servants congratulate you, bowing low. Priests speak blessings over your name. But the weight of the crown, even though it is not yet upon your head, already presses heavily upon your shoulders. You know this decision will change everything. You know it will cost you the peace you once had. That evening, your father summons you privately. It is only the third or fourth time in your life you have been alone with him. He studies you, his gaze sharp and penetrating. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then, finally, he speaks. You wonder why I chose you. You nod silently. Your brothers are strong, he continues. But strength is not enough. Egypt needs more than muscle. Egypt needs wisdom. You listen, you think, you weigh decisions carefully. That is why the gods favor you. That is why I favor you. The words offer some comfort, but also raise more questions. Was it truly wisdom, or was it politics? Perhaps the priests saw in you a tool they could guide. Perhaps your father feared. Your brothers might bring civil war. The truth may never be known, but in the end, the reason matters little. The decision has been made. You are the heir. From that day forward, everything changes. Your training intensifies. No longer are you simply one prince among many. You are the chosen one, the future ruler. Every lesson carries greater weight. Every mistake feels heavier. Advisors test you with harder questions. Generals demand more from your military exercises. Priests remind you that the gods will judge you more closely than anyone else. At meals, courtiers bow lower. Servants speak more carefully. Even the guards watch you differently now. Respect, yes, but also fear. Because everyone knows that when your father is gone, you will decide their fates. But alongside the respect comes danger. In the dark corners of the palace, your brothers whisper with their mothers. You hear the rumors. They speak of injustice, of betrayal, of how the order of things has been broken. Some of their allies in court agree. You catch the cold glances, the murmured prayers for your downfall. The palace, once a place of learning and order, now feels like a nest of snakes. At night, you lie awake once more beneath the painted ceiling. But now your thoughts are different. You think not of playtime lost, but of survival gained. You wonder how long it will be before your brothers make their move. You wonder whether your father's choice has doomed you as much as it has elevated you. Still, the path is set. You are the heir. You must carry yourself as such. Every morning, you rise with heavier purpose. Every evening, you collapse into bed with heavier responsibility. There is no going back to being one prince among many. You are the chosen, and one day, the double crown of Egypt will rest upon your head, whether your brothers like it or not. The announcement of your new title spreads like fire through dry reeds. The priests record it, the scribes write it down, and the messengers carry it across the kingdom. This son, not the eldest, not the second, but this one, shall wear the double crown when the Pharaoh dies. Some in Egypt accept the news quietly. Others murmur in confusion. But within the palace walls, it lands like a hammer strike. Your brothers, those who once shared tutors, meals, and games of mock battle with you, are not merely angry. They are humiliated. It shows in their faces immediately after the ceremony. One clenches his jaw so tightly you expect his teeth to crack. Another stares at you with eyes so cold You can feel the weight of them pressing against your chest. Their mothers weep openly, mourning the insult done to their sons. And then, in a swift stroke of political cruelty, your father strips away their futures entirely. He does not merely pass over them for the throne. He removes them from the line of succession altogether. Each one is sent away to serve as a priest. On the surface, this seems like an honor. Priests are respected, trusted, and essential to the balance of the kingdom. But everyone knows the truth. It is exile in disguise. A prince who becomes a priest cannot be a pharaoh. He is tied to the temples, bound to ritual, cut off from the throne he once expected to inherit. Your brothers do not go quietly. The eldest refuses at first, protesting before the court. He declares that the gods must have made a mistake, that the pharaoh's mind has been clouded, that birthright cannot be ignored. Guards seize him and drag him away, his cries echoing down the stone corridors. His words are drowned out by the chanting of priests, but you hear them all the same. The second brother does not speak at all. He only glares at you. His silence is worse than anger. It is the silence of someone who plots in shadows, who waits for the right moment to strike. When he is sent off to Thebes to serve in the great temples, he does not look back, not once. The others follow in turn. One by one, they are cut off from court life, their names removed from the list of heirs, their fates sealed in robes of linen and chants of ritual. At first, you feel relief. The danger is gone, you think. The rivals have been removed. But as days pass, relief turns to unease. Because exile does not kill ambition. It only buries it deeper. Whispers drift back from the temples. Your brothers, though cloaked in priestly duties, still gather followers. Some claim the gods themselves have been insulted by your father's decision. Others say the rightful heir has been robbed, and that one day the mistake will be corrected. You cannot walk the palace halls without feeling the tension. Courtiers bow to you, but their eyes flicker. Servants obey, but their voices tremble when they speak your name. Every conversation seems to stop when you enter the room. The air around you hums with suspicion. And always, at the edge of your thoughts, you hear the echo of your brother's furious cry. This is not the will of the gods. Your father, of course, is unmoved. He declares that Egypt is stronger, under one chosen heir, that the gods revealed their will through him, and that to question it is to question Ma'at itself, the divine order of the world. His words carry the weight of authority, but authority does not erase resentment. You begin to notice changes in your own life. Guards shadow your steps more closely. Meals are tasted before they reach your lips. Tutors and advisors remind you, again and again, to trust no one. At night, you sleep lightly, waking at the smallest sound. The palace, once a place of lessons and discipline, now feels more like a fortress. Yet even in this growing storm, your training does not stop. If anything, it intensifies. Generals drill you harder, pushing you to master battlefield tactics. Advisors quiz you on taxation, on laws, on the grain trade that keeps Egypt fed. Priests remind you of the rituals that bind the gods to the land. Every hour of your day is consumed with preparation. You are no longer a boy learning for the sake of learning. You are an heir preparing for the weight of an empire. Still, doubt lingers in your mind. Did your father truly choose you because of wisdom? Or because he saw your brothers as too dangerous? Was this really the will of the gods? Or a gamble made by a man desperate to control the succession? The answers remain hidden, like secrets, carved in the deepest chambers of the temples. Meanwhile, your brother's hatred grows like a shadow that follows you everywhere. They may be priests now, but priests have power. They command respect, wealth, and access to temples that are richer than most kingdoms. And Egypt has seen it before. A priestly son who rises not through birthright, but through conspiracy. You wonder as you sit in the quiet of your chamber whether your father has protected you or doomed you. You wonder how long your brothers will wait before they make their move. And so, you grow cautious, careful. Every friend is examined. Every ally is tested. Trust becomes a rare currency, one you spend sparingly. You learn to wear a mask, a calm face that hides the storm within. Outwardly, you are the dutiful son, the chosen heir, the young prince preparing for kingship. Inwardly, you are a watcher, a listener, a survivor. Because you know, deep in your bones, that this story is not finished. Your brothers may be gone, from court, but their hatred is not gone from Egypt. It lingers in the shadows, waiting for its moment. And when it comes, you must be ready. The day comes when your lessons in the palace are no longer enough. Books, scrolls, and tutors have filled your head with knowledge, but your father, the Pharaoh, knows that an heir must do more than read about battles. An heir must see them, must feel the weight of armor, the crush of men, the heat of a desert campaign. And so, when Egypt prepares for war against the Nubians to the south, he summons you to join. The announcement fills you with both pride and dread. You have been trained for this moment since you were a child, learning strategy, memorizing maps, practicing with weapons. But training grounds are orderly, scrolls are tidy. Real war is neither. You know this, though you try to hide your fear. Behind the mask of a prince, your attendants prepare you for the journey. Bronze weapons are polished until they gleam. A chariot is made ready, its wooden frame strengthened with rawhide, its wheels reinforced for rough ground. Your armor is not the heavy kind worn by common soldiers. Instead, it is ceremonial, yet practical, decorated to remind all who see you that you are the son of the living God. The march south begins slowly. Columns of soldiers stretch across the sand, their shields catching the sun. The Nile flows to your left, steady and eternal, guiding the army toward the enemy. Supply boats drift beside the soldiers, carrying food, water, and weapons. The air is filled with the sounds of feet pounding the earth, of donkeys braying, of officers shouting commands. At first, it almost feels like another lesson. You ride in your chariot, watching the soldiers move in formation. Your father's generals point out the strategies of supply lines, explain how scouts move ahead, describe how discipline is more powerful than numbers. You nod, listening carefully, just as you always have in the palace. But then, the further south you travel, the more the illusion breaks. The land grows harsher, the sun feels heavier, rations run thin. Soldiers cough at night, their bodies tired, their sandals worn. You begin to see not just an army, but the strain of keeping an army alive. The grand marches painted on temple walls never showed the blisters, the thirst, the endless dust. Finally, scouts return with news. The Nubian forces are ahead. They have gathered near the river, defending their land, waiting for Egypt's advance. You hear the murmur ripple through the ranks. Some soldiers are eager, others grow silent, and for the first time, you feel the cold knot of fear twist inside your stomach. The morning of battle begins with ritual. Priests walk among the ranks, burning incense, chanting prayers to Amun and Ra, calling on the gods to bless the army. Animals are sacrificed, their blood offered to the heavens. Soldiers raise their spears and shout, their voices echoing across the desert. The air is thick with smoke, with dust, with expectation. Your father leads from the front, his presence, larger than life. The soldiers bow as he passes. They call him Mighty Bull, son of Ra, Lord of the Crowns. He raises his hand and silence falls over the ranks. His words are steady, commanding. He promises victory, glory, the favor of the gods. And though you are young, though fear grips your heart, you feel the pull of his voice. The signal is given. Horns blast, drums thunder, and the army begins to move. From your chariot, you see the lines of soldiers advance, shields raised, spears glinting in the sun. Arrows darken the sky, whistling as they fly. The Nubians answer with their own. The ground shakes beneath thousands of feet. The noise is overwhelming. Metal striking metal, men shouting, horses neighing. And then the reality strikes you. This is no lesson. No tutor can prepare you for the sight of men falling, for the screams, for the chaos that swallows all order. The battlefield is not the clean diagram drawn on papyrus. It is dust and sweat and fear. Your chariot lurches forward, carrying you closer to the fighting. Your driver shouts over the noise, guiding the horses, swerving past bodies and broken weapons. You grip your bow with trembling hands, remembering your training, drawing an arrow, releasing it into the blur of movement ahead. You do not know if it finds its mark. The enemy surges, and for a moment the Egyptian line wavers. You see soldiers stumble, shields splinter, commanders shouting to hold the ranks. The noise grows louder, a wave crashing again and again. Your chest pounds. Your mouth is dry. Every sense is overwhelmed, and then you realize you might die here. You, the chosen heir, the one marked for the throne. The thought chills you more than the enemy spears. It is not supposed to happen this way. Pharaohs are eternal. Sons of gods are untouchable. Yet here you are, surrounded by men who bleed, who fall, who vanish into the dust. Your driver yanks the reins, pulling you back. From the worst of the fighting, you catch a glimpse of your father, standing tall in his own chariot, his bow raised, his voice carrying across the battlefield. His presence is like a pillar, unshaken, unbending. Soldiers rally around him, pushing forward again. Slowly, the tide begins to turn. Hours drag by like days. When at last the Nubians retreat, leaving the field behind, the Egyptians cheer in triumph. But the victory feels hollow to you. You see the bodies scattered across the ground, men who marched beside you only yesterday. You smell the iron tang in the air, sharp and bitter. You hear the groans of the wounded, carried back on makeshift stretchers. That night, the camp is divided. Some celebrate, drinking and singing songs of victory. Others sit in silence, staring into the fire, their eyes empty. You sit apart, struggling to understand what you have witnessed. The lesson is clear. War is not the glorious triumph painted on temple walls. It is survival. It is sacrifice. It is terror wrapped in ritual and command. Your father does not soften the truth. He calls you to his tent, praises your courage, tells you that fear is natural but must be mastered. He explains that this is the burden of a ruler, to send men into danger, to risk death, to accept that Egypt's strength is built on the lives of its soldiers. His voice is calm, but his eyes are tired. As you lie awake that night, the desert winds sweeping through the camp, you understand something new. Being heir is not only about crowns, ceremonies, or even surviving jealous brothers. It is about facing the brutal reality that power demands. The gods may favor you, your father may choose you, but none of it shields you from the truth of war. The battlefield has stripped away the last illusions of childhood. You are no longer just a prince in training. You are a survivor. And though the fear still lingers, so does a deeper knowledge. If you wish to rule Egypt one day, you must learn not just to command battles, but to endure them. The campaign against the Nubians ends. The army returns north, following the river homeward. The soldiers march with fewer voices now, their ranks thinned, their steps heavy with exhaustion. Victory has been claimed, yes, but victory always has a price. And though the songs of triumph echo, you carry with you the memories of what you saw, the chaos, the fear, the weight of death pressing down on the battlefield. When the palace walls rise into view once more, it is like stepping into another world. Gone are the shouts of soldiers and the clamor of battle. Instead, there are musicians playing soft melodies, servants carrying trays of food, courtiers in finely woven linen bowing low as the pharaoh and his son return. The contrast is almost disorienting. You feel as though you have crossed from one reality into another. Your father resumes his throne, seated in the great hall beneath the painted ceilings and towering columns. Officials line up to present petitions. Priests bring offerings. Scribes record every word, their reed pens scratching across papyrus. The palace breathes again with the rhythm of power and routine. For your father, it is as though nothing has changed. He has seen many battles, many campaigns, and to him this is simply another chapter in the long book of his reign. For you, though, the palace feels different now. The walls that once seemed solid and eternal now seem fragile, almost unreal. You know what lies beyond them, the dust, the chaos, the screams. And so, when you walk the halls, you do so with a new heaviness, a new awareness that all this luxury rests on the edge of a sword. Your days return to their familiar cycle. Lessons resume, though they are more demanding now. Generals expect you to recall the movements of the army, to analyze what went right, what went wrong. Priests test you on the rituals of victory, the ceremonies that must honor the gods after war. Advisors remind you that Egypt's enemies are always watching, always waiting, and that peace must be guarded with as much care as war itself. But beneath all these lessons, you notice something new. Your father begins to include you more in the affairs of state. You sit beside him in council meetings, listening as governors report on taxes, as ambassadors bring news from foreign lands. He asks your opinion, not only to test you, but to show others that you are no longer just a boy. You are his chosen heir. The court must see it. The palace is full of rituals. Every week, you travel to Thebes with your father to honor Amun in his temple. Priests lead long processions, carrying statues of the gods through the streets, incense burning, chants rising like waves. Crowds gather to watch, bowing as the divine image passes. To them, your father is not just a man, he is a living God, and you, as his son, carry that same aura. The thought is both thrilling and suffocating. Daily life inside the palace is a mixture of grandeur and suffocation. Servants attend to your every need, bringing water scented with lotus flowers for bathing, preparing meals of bread, honey, figs, and roasted meats, fanning you with ostrich feathers when the sun grows too hot. At first, this luxury feels like a reward, a comfort, after the harshness of the battlefield. But over time, it begins to feel heavy. You cannot walk anywhere without attendants following. You cannot eat without tasters sampling your food first. Even your sleep is watched, guards stationed at every door. Privacy is a dream you no longer know. The weight of expectation grows. Every look from a courtier is a measure, every whisper, behind a fan, a judgment. You hear the murmurs, some saying you are wise beyond your years, others suggesting you were chosen only because your father distrusted your brothers. The rivalry of blood has not vanished. Even from their priestly exiles, your brother's presence lingers, their allies still circling within the court. You grow cautious. At banquets, you watch not just the dancers and musicians, but the faces of those around you. Who laughs too loudly? Who avoids your gaze? Trust is fragile here, as fragile as glass. And though the palace glitters with gold and jewels, you see the cracks beneath the shine. Still, there are moments of comfort. You find solace in the gardens, where papyrus and lotus grow beside pools of water. Birds sing in the branches, and the air smells of earth and flowers instead of incense and sweat. Here, for a little while, you can walk without the weight of armor, without the shouts of soldiers or the murmurs of courtiers. You sit by the water, watching fish swim lazily below the surface, and imagine a life without crowns, without battles, without fear. But always, the dream fades, replaced by the reality of who you are. Nights in the palace are restless. The silence is not complete. There is always the faint sound of guards shifting, of sandals against stone, of whispers carried through corridors. You lie awake, staring at the painted ceiling above, thinking of the men you saw fall on the battlefield. You wonder if they were remembered. or if their names vanished into the sand. You wonder if your brothers think of you, plotting in their temples, waiting for a moment to strike. Your father, though stern, gives you counsel. He tells you that the burden you feel is natural, that every ruler must learn to carry it without faltering. He reminds you that the palace is not just a home, but a stage, and that every gesture, every word, every glance is part of a performance that maintains the illusion of divine power. To falter, even in private, is to risk the image that keeps Egypt strong. And so, you learn. You learn to smile when you do not wish to smile. You learn to speak when you would rather remain silent. You learn to sit for hours through ceremonies that seem endless, your face calm, your body still, while inside your thoughts wander. The palace teaches you patience, endurance, the art of appearing unshaken even when the world presses hard upon you. As weeks turn to months, you realize that being Pharaoh is not only about commanding armies or wearing crowns. It is about constant labor, constant vigilance, constant sacrifice. Your father works from dawn until deep into the night, meeting advisors, reading reports, making judgments. He is surrounded by wealth and servants, yet he is never free. You begin to see him not just as a ruler, but as a man chained to his role, a man who carries Egypt on his shoulders and cannot ever set it down. And you wonder, when your time comes, will you be strong enough to do the same? The palace, for all its beauty, feels less like a sanctuary and more like a weight pressing down on your chest. But it is also the place where your destiny is shaped. Here, in the endless halls, among the whispers of courtiers and the songs of priests, you learn what it truly means to be heir to Egypt. And though fear remains, though doubt lingers, you know that the path forward cannot be escaped, because you are not just a boy anymore. You are the chosen heir. And the palace, with all its shadows and all its splendor, is both your prison and your proving ground. The years pass quietly, or at least as quietly as life in the palace can ever be. You are now 21, no longer the boy who once trailed behind tutors with a wax tablet under his arm. You are a man, a prince, and more importantly, the chosen heir. The court whispers of you with both respect and caution. And with adulthood comes the next step in your royal duty, marriage. The announcement is made not with fanfare, but with solemn certainty. Advisors speak of it as though it is the most natural thing in the world. The scribes record it matter-of-factly. The priests nod with approval, and you, sitting at the edge of the audience hall, hear the words as though they belong to someone else. You are to marry your sister. Yes, your sister. For a moment, the thought makes your stomach twist. To you, she is not a stranger from a foreign land, not an alliance from a distant court. She is someone you grew up with, someone whose face is familiar, someone who shares your blood. Yet, in the world of pharaohs, that is precisely the point. The priests explain it patiently, as though you need reminding. The royal family is no ordinary family. You are the children of the gods on earth. To marry outside the royal bloodline would be to dilute that sacred divinity. And so, brothers wed sisters, uncles wed nieces, a cycle repeated through generations. It is not about love. It is about purity, about continuity, about keeping the divine line unbroken. You do not protest. To protest would be to deny the very system that has placed you where you are. And so, quietly, you prepare. The wedding day dawns with sunlight spilling over the river, the waters glinting like polished bronze. The palace bursts into activity. Servants carry baskets of flowers, musicians tune their instruments, priests arrange offerings for the gods. The smell of incense fills the air, mingling with the scent of lotus blossoms scattered across the courtyards. You are dressed in linen so fine it is almost transparent, threads gleaming white in the morning light. Around your neck, heavy gold, collars weigh against your shoulders. A crown of ceremonial cobra rests upon your head, the symbol of divine power poised above your brow. Your sister, the bride, is adorned in similar splendor. She wears a wig braided with gold beads, her eyes darkened with kohl, her skin perfumed with oils. She is both familiar and unfamiliar, someone you have known all your life yet transformed into the queen-to-be, the mother of heirs who will carry the line of gods forward. The ceremony unfolds with precision. Priests chant hymns to Hathor, goddess of love and fertility. Offerings of bread, beer, figs, and flowers are laid before the temple shrines. You and your sister walk side by side, your hands joined, your steps measured to the beat of drums. The air hums with ritual, with the weight of centuries pressing down. Guests fill the palace courtyards, nobles, governors, foreign envoys, generals who once followed your father into battle. They bow, they clap, they cheer, their voices rising in a chorus of approval. To them, this is not strange. To them, this is tradition, an affirmation that Egypt remains strong, that the gods smile upon the royal house. The banquet that follows is extravagant. Long tables groan under the weight of roasted geese, baskets of bread, bowls of honey, dates, figs, and pomegranates. Musicians play harps and flutes. Dancers sway with measured grace. Acrobats flip and spin to the delight of the guests. Servants pour cups of wine until the air itself seems to shimmer with warmth and merriment. And yet, for you, the celebration feels hollow. You sit at the head of the feast beside your sister wife, smiling when required, lifting your cup when expected, but inside, you feel distant, detached. This is not love. This is duty, dressed in gold and perfume. When the night grows late and the guests begin to depart, you find yourself staring into the distance, beyond the palace walls, imagining a life where marriage might mean choice, where affection might matter more than bloodline. But such thoughts are dangerous, so you let them drift away like smoke into the night air. In the days that follow, life resumes its rhythm. The marriage changes little in your daily routine. You still attend councils, still join your father in ceremonies, still study the endless details of ruling an empire. Yet, something has shifted. You are no longer simply heir. You are now part of a royal partnership, a symbol of dynastic stability. Every move you make is watched more closely, every word weighed more carefully. Your sister wife takes her place beside you in ceremonies, her presence a reminder to all of Egypt that the blood of the gods flows undiluted. Courtiers bow more deeply, now addressing you not just as prince, but as the future pharaoh and queen together. The illusion of divine unity grows stronger, even if the reality feels distant. Behind the appearances, however, whispers continue. Not everyone is satisfied. Some courtiers mutter that the line of succession remains unstable, that your exiled brothers may yet find a way to challenge you. Some priests question whether the gods truly favor this union, pointing to small omens, floods that come late, harvests that yield less than expected. And always, in the shadows, you sense the lingering resentment of those who see your rise as undeserved. The marriage, for all its pomp, has not erased the dangers. If anything, it has made them more pronounced. You are no longer a boy to be overlooked. You are a man with a queen at your side, a man who will one day inherit the double crown. To your enemies, that makes you not only a rival, but a target. And yet, life continues. Seasons turn. Festivals come and go. You fulfill your duties as husband, as prince, as heir. In time, children may follow, though whether you feel joy or weariness at the thought is difficult to say. Your life is no longer your own. It belongs to Egypt, to the gods, to the endless cycle of ritual and power. In the quiet moments, when you walk alone in the palace gardens or sit by the waters of the Nile, you reflect on the path before you. You know that this marriage is not about you, not about her, not even about family. It is about Egypt itself. The throne is larger than any individual. The pharaoh may be mortal, but the kingship is eternal, and you are now bound to it more tightly than ever. So you accept. You learn to wear the mask more firmly, to smile when you do not feel like smiling, to speak when you would rather remain silent. The palace, the marriage, the rituals, all of it becomes part of the performance. And beneath it all, you carry the same thought that has followed you since childhood. One day, the crown will be yours. And when that day comes, no banquet, no marriage, no ritual will shield you from the weight of it. For now, though, you play your part. The husband, the prince, the chosen heir, and Egypt watches. Time is a strange thing inside a palace. Days are measured not by the rising and setting of the sun, but by rituals, councils, banquets, and the endless hum of official duties. Yet, for all the order and ceremony, time is still relentless. And, as the seasons turn, you notice something you once refused to admit. Your father, the great Pharaoh, is beginning to wither. At first, it is subtle. He moves a little slower, his steps less steady when he climbs the grand staircases of the palace. His voice, once booming like thunder, grows hoarse. He spends more time seated during audiences, letting advisors speak in his place. Then the subtle changes become undeniable. He eats less. His once broad shoulders stoop. The physicians hover around him constantly, pressing herbs into his hands, mixing strange brews, whispering about remedies. But no remedy can stop the years. For the people of Egypt, the Pharaoh is a god in human form, eternal and unchanging. But you, his son, see the truth. Beneath the crowns and robes, he is a man. And like all men, he is bound to the frailties of flesh. One evening, after a long day of ceremonies, you are summoned to his private chambers. The room is heavy with the smell of incense and oils meant to mask the bitter scent of sickness. Your father lies upon a low bed, his skin pale, his breath shallow. The physicians stand back, knowing their limits. It is no longer medicine he needs. It is comfort. His eyes meet yours, and for the first time in your life, you see him not as a distant figure of authority, not as the unshakable Pharaoh, but as a father. His voice is weak, yet every word carries weight. He tells you to remember what you have been taught, to rule with strength, but also with patience, to honor the gods, to protect Egypt, for Egypt is larger than any single man. He warns you of treachery, of brothers who may not accept your crown, of courtiers who smile by day and plot by night. Then he takes your hand in his, squeezes it with what little strength he has left, and whispers one final truth. You are ready. That night, the palace falls into silence. The guards pace the halls, the servants whisper nervously, the priests gather in prayer, and then, before dawn breaks, the great Pharaoh breathes his last. The announcement is swift. Messengers rush through the palace, then out into the streets of the capital. The people weep openly. Women smear their faces with dust. Men tear their robes. Professional mourners wail so loudly that their cries echo across the courtyards. To lose a pharaoh is to lose not just a ruler, but the living embodiment of the gods. The funeral preparations begin immediately. Egypt does not wait. For 70 days, the body of the pharaoh will be embalmed, preserved, wrapped, and prepared for eternity. Priests chant incantations night and day, offering prayers to guide his soul through the afterlife. Sacred oils are poured, organs are removed, and each stage of the ritual is marked with precision. The tomb, already under construction for decades, is readied to receive its master. The funeral itself is unlike anything you have ever seen. It is not just a burial, it is a spectacle, a declaration to the gods and to the people that Egypt remains, strong even in the face of loss. The procession stretches for miles, priests carrying sacred statues, nobles bearing offerings of gold and food, soldiers marching in perfect formation. The air is thick with incense, with chanting, with the sound of drums that beat like a heartbeat for the nation. You walk behind the coffin, your face set, your robes heavy with gold and linen. You do not weep. You cannot. The people look to you now. To falter, even for a moment, would be to invite doubt. And so, you walk with steady steps, every movement rehearsed, every gesture symbolic. The gods are watching. Egypt is watching. When the body is finally laid to rest within the tomb, surrounded by treasures meant for the afterlife, jewels, statues, chariots, jars of food and wine, the final rituals are performed. The priests seal the chamber. The wails of mourners rise one, last time, then fade into silence. The reign of your father has ended, and with it, your childhood ends as well. But death is never the end in Egypt. It is transformation. And so, even before the tomb is sealed, preparations for your coronation are underway. Egypt cannot exist without a pharaoh. The throne must never sit empty. The coronation begins at dawn, just as the sun god Ra rises over the eastern horizon. You stand at the steps of the temple in Thebes, surrounded by priests, generals, nobles, and foreign envoys. The Nile glitters in the distance, its waters reflecting the pale light of morning. The crowd gathered is immense, stretching as far as you can see, their voices hushed in anticipation. First, you are purified. Priests pour sacred water over your body, washing away the impurities of mortal life. Then they anoint you with oils, each one tied to a god: strength from Horus, wisdom from Thoth, fertility from Osiris. Every gesture is deliberate. Every drop of oil, a reminder that you are no longer just a man, but something greater. Next comes the most solemn moment. You are led into the temple itself, its towering columns painted with the stories of gods and kings. At the center, before the shrine of Amun-Ra, you kneel. The high priest raises the double crown, the red crown of Lower Egypt and the white crown of Upper Egypt, symbols of unity, of dominion over the two lands. Slowly, deliberately, he places it upon your head. The weight is immense, not just physically, but spiritually. It presses down on you with the burden of centuries, with the expectations of a nation. You are no longer simply a son, or a brother, or even a prince. You are Pharaoh. You are the living Horus, the bridge between gods and men. The crowd erupts, in cheers. Trumpets blare, drums thunder, voices cry out your throne name, the name that will be remembered in carvings, in temples, in history itself. For a moment, you feel a surge of power, unlike anything you have known. The gods, the people, the land itself seem to bend toward you. Egypt is yours. The celebrations that follow last for days. Feasts are held, sacrifices offered, music and dancing fill the nights. Everywhere you go, people bow, chant your name, throw flowers at your feet. The capital glows with torches and lanterns, the air thick with the scent of roasting meats and burning incense. Yet, beneath the joy lies something else. Responsibility. You feel it with every bow, every cheer, every gift laid at your feet. These people do not see you as you are. They see you as something more, something almost divine. And with that divinity comes expectation. To fail is not just to disappoint, it is to break the order of the cosmos itself. On the final night of the celebrations, you find yourself standing alone on the palace balcony. The city below still hums with song and laughter, but your eyes are on the horizon, on the dark silhouette of the Nile, winding its way into the distance. Somewhere out there, your brothers live, stripped of their claims, but perhaps not stripped of their ambition. Somewhere out there, enemies plot, waiting for weakness. You grip the railing, the crown heavy upon your head. The people cheer your name, but you know that the true test has only just begun. Your father is gone. His era is sealed in stone, and now Egypt belongs to you. The coronation celebrations are still fresh in memory when reality begins to push its way into the gilded walls of the palace. A pharaoh may be divine, a living Horus, but even gods need gold to rule. And soon, you discover the truth that every ruler must face. The treasury, that great storehouse of Egypt's wealth, is running dry. It does not happen all at once. At first, it is just whispers from the scribes who manage the accounts. A shortfall here, a delayed delivery there, a tax, caravan arriving with less than expected. You brush it aside, telling yourself it is only a passing problem. But then the whispers grow into quiet warnings. The priests come to you, their voices polite but strained. The temples are not receiving their full share of offerings. Grain shipments meant for the gods have been diverted to feed the army. Even the workers who repair the roads grumble of wages not paid in full. Finally, your chief treasurer approaches you with a scroll in hand, his face pale. He bows low, then unrolls the papyrus. His voice trembles as he reads aloud the figures. The truth is plain. The treasury is nearly empty. How could this be? Your father's reign was glorious, filled with monuments, temples, and military triumphs. But such glory had a price. The great funeral alone drained enormous sums. Gold and silver were poured into the tomb, never to be seen again. Endless festivals, processions, and feasts consumed more. Armies had to be equipped, forts repaired, ships maintained. For decades, wealth poured out faster than it flowed in. And now, as you take the throne, you inherit not just the crown, but the debts of empire. The weight of this realization settles heavily on your shoulders. You are barely crowned, yet already Egypt expects you to solve the crisis. Without gold, the soldiers cannot be paid. Without grain, the people will grow restless. Without offerings, the gods themselves may turn their backs on you. A pharaoh without wealth is a pharaoh without power. So you begin the long, wearying process of restoring Egypt's treasury. It begins with taxes. You summon your scribes, those patient men with reed pens and scrolls, and you order new levies upon the vassal states. Canaanite towns, Nubian chiefs, Libyan tribes, all must send more tribute. Caravans laden with grain, cattle, ivory, and precious stones are demanded in larger numbers. Messengers ride out in every direction carrying your seal and your commands. At home, you raise the harvest tax. More grain is collected from the villages along the Nile. More livestock counted and taken as offerings for the state. Inspectors are dispatched to ensure nothing is hidden, their eyes sharp, their records strict. For the farmers and herders of Egypt, life was already a struggle. Now, with heavier demands, it becomes harsher still. Families scrape by with less food. Laborers work longer days to meet the quotas. In the villages, muttering begins. People bow to your name, but behind closed doors, they complain of hardship. Some resist outright. In the south, a local governor dares to hold back part of his tribute. He claims his province is too poor to give more. When word of his defiance reaches you, the court grows tense. Some advisors urge patience, others demand swift punishment. You know what must be done. Egypt cannot afford weakness. If one man refuses, others will follow. So you send soldiers. The governor is dragged from his home, accused of treason, and executed before his people. His wealth is seized, his lands handed to a loyal official. The message is clear. Pharaoh may sit far away in the capital, but his reach is long. Obedience is not optional. Such actions restore order, but they also plant seeds of fear. In the countryside, families lower their heads when your name is spoken. They do not see you as a protector, but as a heavy hand pressing down upon them. Yet still, the grain flows into the capital. The caravans arrive. The temples receive their offerings. Slowly, painfully, the treasury begins to refill. Still, every coin you collect seems to vanish as quickly as it arrives. The army needs new weapons. The fleet requires repairs. The priests demand their share, reminding you that the gods must never be neglected. Each day brings a new petition, a new expense. You realize that ruling Egypt is not just about power and ceremony. It is about balance, a constant weighing of needs against resources, of loyalty against fear. Sometimes, late at night, you walk through the palace storehouses. The guards stand aside as you enter the vast chambers lined with jars of grain, crates of figs and dates, stacks of linen, and piles of copper ingots. You run your hand over the sealed jars, imagining the hands that harvested each kernel of wheat, the sweat that soaked the soil, the families who went without so that these supplies could reach your halls. The wealth of Egypt is not just treasure, it is the lifeblood of millions, collected, counted, and stored beneath your command. And yet, even as you rebuild the treasury, you know it will never be enough. The demands of empire are endless. A pharaoh can never rest, for wealth is always slipping away, like sand through fingers. To ease the burden, you try new strategies. You appoint overseers to monitor the flow of goods more closely, reducing theft and corruption. You order expeditions into the deserts to mine copper and turquoise, sending workers into harsh lands where survival itself is uncertain. Traders are dispatched across the sea, exchanging Egyptian grain and papyrus for foreign timber, tin, and luxury goods. Slowly, the state stabilizes. But the people are not blind. They see the harsher taxes, the stricter laws, the punishments dealt to rebels. They whisper in their homes that life under your reign is harder than before. They remember the feasts of your father, the temples he built, the generosity he displayed. In comparison, you appear stern, demanding, unyielding. You remind yourself that you have no choice. A kingdom cannot run on dreams. It runs on grain, on gold, on labor. Pharaoh is not just a symbol. He is an accountant of empire, keeping the numbers balanced so the entire system does not collapse. There are moments of relief when the priests come to you with their offerings restored, their voices softened. You feel a flicker of pride. When soldiers return from campaigns in Nubia carrying ivory and cattle, you breathe easier. When the scribes announce that the granaries are full for the coming year, you sleep more soundly. Still, the crisis has changed you. Before, you thought being Pharaoh was about crowns and ceremonies, about divine power and eternal glory. Now, you see the truth. Ruling is about survival, not just for you, but for all of Egypt. Survival means compromise, sacrifice, and sometimes cruelty. The people may not love you, but they obey. And in the quiet halls of the palace, as you review endless scrolls of numbers and figures, you remind yourself of what your father said. Egypt is larger than one man. The pharaoh does not live for himself, but for the land, for the people, for the gods. You grip the reed pen, sign another decree, and send another caravan of goods out into the desert. Your treasury may be full today, but tomorrow it will empty again. That is the eternal rhythm of Egypt. Wealth flows like the Nile, rising, falling, never still. And you, Pharaoh, must ride its current, no matter how harsh the waters may become. When people look at the golden mask of a pharaoh or see the towering temples carved with your name, they imagine a life of luxury, a throne of ease, and endless pleasure. Yet behind the shining images carved into stone lies a very different truth. Pharaoh's life is not one of leisure. It is one of constant duty, an unbroken chain of tasks that begins at sunrise and stretches late into the night. Your day begins before the sun itself rises over the Nile. The palace stirs while the city still sleeps. Servants move silently through the halls, lighting oil lamps, preparing clothes, polishing jewelry. Priests arrive to purify themselves in sacred water, ready to lead the morning rituals. By the time the first golden light touches the horizon, you are already awake, already bathed, already clothed in fine linen and gold. The crown rests upon your head, heavy with meaning. The day has begun. The first duty is always to the gods. Before you speak to your council, before you hear petitions, before you even taste food, you must present yourself at the temple. Egypt does not separate the divine from the political. To rule the land, you must also rule the rituals. Without the favor of the gods, no harvest would ripen, no flood would come, no army would triumph. So you walk, or rather are carried, to the temple of Amun. The air smells of incense, thick and sweet, curling upward toward painted ceilings. Priests in spotless white robes chant hymns that echo through the great halls. You raise offerings, jars of oil, baskets of bread, cuts of meat, jars of beer and wine. Each item is carefully arranged, a gift to the gods who sustain Egypt. The ritual is slow, deliberate, repeated daily, yet never less important. Your own hands rarely touch the offerings, but your presence is essential. Without Pharaoh, the ritual has no power. Once the gods are appeased, the work of ruling begins. You sit in the audience hall, a vast chamber where courtiers gather to present their reports. Scribes arrive with scrolls filled with numbers. Governors from distant provinces bow low, waiting to deliver their petitions. Messengers from vassal states stand nervously, clutching gifts meant to remind you of their loyalty. The room buzzes with voices, each one demanding your attention. The matters are endless. One governor seeks funds to repair a canal damaged by the floods. Another reports bandits troubling a trade route in the desert. A foreign envoy demands more grain than promised, threatening rebellion if it is not delivered. Priests remind you of festivals that require funding. Generals ask for supplies for the army. The list is endless, the decisions weighty, and always, every eye watches you, waiting for your judgment. Sometimes the choices are clear. A disloyal official must be punished, a loyal one rewarded. Sometimes they are not. Which canal deserves repair when resources are scarce? Which ally can be appeased and which must be crushed? Every decision carries risk. To act too harshly may breed resentment. To act too softly may invite defiance. Pharaoh cannot hesitate. A moment of weakness could echo across the empire. So you weigh, you decide, you speak, and the scribes record your words in ink that will last for centuries. The hours pass, yet the duties do not end. You move from counsel to judgment. Criminals are brought before you, their fates in your hands. Some plead for mercy, some protest innocence, some bow in shame. The law is clear, but your judgment shapes its use. A thief may be sentenced to labor on royal works. A traitor may be executed to set an example. A loyal servant may be forgiven for a small failing. In each case, you are the law, the final authority from which there is no appeal. By midday, your body grows weary, yet still you work. Meals are brief, taken in between meetings. While you eat, advisors continue to speak, discussing the grain harvest, foreign politics, temple construction. You chew slowly, hardly tasting the bread, while your mind turns over questions of war and peace, loyalty and rebellion. Food is not for pleasure, but fuel to continue. In the afternoons, you may review building projects. Temples rise slowly from the quarries of stone. Obelisks are carved, statues shaped. You inspect the work, knowing that one day these monuments will speak your name to generations unborn. Yet you also know the cost. Every block dragged into place is the labor of hundreds. Every carving is hours of sweat beneath the sun. Glory demands sacrifice, and it is your hand that commands it. Some days are reserved for diplomacy. Envoys from foreign lands arrive with gifts: cedar wood from Lebanon, incense from Punt, silver from the Hittites, lapis lazuli from distant mountains. They bow deeply, speak words of respect, and watch carefully to see how you respond. A smile, a frown, a single phrase can shape years of relations. You must appear both gracious and powerful, generous yet unyielding. In their eyes, you are Egypt itself. As the sun lowers, you might think the day is nearly done. But night brings no rest. Banquets are held, feasts arranged, not for your pleasure, but to honor allies, priests, or generals. You sit among endless courses of food, nodding politely, drinking in moderation, listening to speeches. Music plays softly in the background, harps and flutes drifting through the hall. Guests laugh, dancers perform, servants pour wine. Yet for you, it is still duty. Every word spoken must be weighed, every gesture controlled. And when at last the banquet ends, you retreat to your private chambers. The guards still stand watch at the doors. Concubines wait to provide comfort, but even in their company, you are not free. A pharaoh is never alone. Even in bed, the weight of empire lies beside you. You close your eyes, your body heavy with fatigue, but your mind still turning over tomorrow's challenges. Will the tribute from Nubia arrive on time? Will the harvest meet expectations? Will the priests remain loyal or plot with rivals? Sleep comes slowly, and even then, it is uneasy. This is the rhythm of your life now. From sunrise to long after sunset, every hour belongs to Egypt. The people imagine you live in luxury, but you know the truth. The golden throne is also a chain. Each decision binds you tighter, each duty heavier. You live not for yourself, but for the land, the gods, and the people. And yet, in this endless burden, there is also purpose. You are not just a man, but a symbol. Your presence holds Egypt together. Your words bring order from chaos. Your name carved in stone will outlast even the greatest storm. It is a life of toil, yes, but also of meaning. As the years stretch on, the work does not lessen. If anything, it grows. Age slows your body, but the petitions, the judgments, the ceremonies never pause. Egypt does not care for your fatigue. The land demands, and you must answer. Each morning, the crown is placed on your head, heavy yet familiar. Each night, you lie down knowing that dawn will bring the same duties again. It is a cycle without end, like the rising of the Nile, like the turning of the seasons. And you, Pharaoh, are caught within it, the eternal servant of empire. At first, the crown feels like power. The golden headpiece gleams in the morning sun, lined with jewels that sparkle like stars. The serpent of Wadjet rises at the brow, ready to strike, a symbol of divine protection. You remember the first time it was placed upon your head. It was heavy, yes, but it seemed like proof that you had become more than human. You were a living god, a son of Ra, chosen to guide Egypt. But as the years pass, the crown does not grow lighter. It presses down upon you, as if the gold itself absorbs the weight of all Egypt's troubles. At times you long to set it aside, to feel the cool air on your head without the burden of kingship. Yet you cannot. Pharaoh does not exist apart from the crown. Without it, you are only a man, vulnerable, frail, ordinary. The crown is both your shield and your prison. Age creeps in slowly, silently. At first you hardly notice. Your stride becomes a little slower, your nights a little shorter. You recover less quickly from feasts, feel less eager to ride in the chariot at dawn. But soon the changes deepen. Your joints ache from long hours seated on the throne. Your back stiffens beneath the heavy collars of gold. Your eyes, once sharp, enough to read the smallest glyph, now blur when the scribes present their scrolls. The court notices. Servants whisper softly, generals bow lower, priests speak more carefully. They pretend to see strength, but you know they smell weakness. In Egypt, Pharaoh must appear eternal. Yet, you are not eternal. You feel it in your bones, in the lines on your face, in the way sleep slips away and leaves you staring into the dark. And all around you, the palace remains the same. The walls are painted with brilliant colors, scenes of gods and battles, feasts and offerings. Musicians play the same soft tunes on harps and flutes. Servants bring trays of fruit, bread, and roasted meat. Perfumes fill the halls with sweetness. Concubines laugh lightly, their skin glowing with youth. To an outsider, it must seem like endless luxury. Yet to you, after decades, it becomes repetition. The same walls, the same rituals, the same gifts, the same festivals. The banquet table groans with roasted ducks, honey cakes, figs, dates, and jars of wine. But you chew slowly, without hunger. The flavors no longer excite. You remember the days when a sip of wine warmed your chest, when a dish of roasted fish delighted you. Now it is just fuel, something to keep you alive for another day of duties. Even the finest delicacies lose their taste when they never end. Concubines are brought to your chamber, perfumed and beautiful, trained to dance, sing, and soothe. They smile, they flatter, they touch. But you see in their eyes not love, not devotion, but duty. They are there because the palace demands it. They are gifts, possessions, offerings. Their laughter feels hollow, their embraces like performances. The more you age, the more the gap between you and them widens. You are a figure of awe, yes, but also of distance. A man who can never be simply himself, never vulnerable, never truly loved. You begin to notice that people never speak to you as they might to an equal. Courtiers bow, but never share their true thoughts. Servants obey, but never show their true feelings. Advisors flatter, but never challenge. Even your children speak carefully, watching their words. You live surrounded by voices, yet isolated by your own power. The palace is full of people, yet you are always alone. Sometimes, in the quiet of night, you remember your youth, the days when you first took the throne, when you were filled with energy, ambition, and hope. You believed then that you could shape Egypt with your will. You dreamed of new temples, victories in battle, monuments greater than any before. Some of those dreams came true, others faded, swallowed by the endless demands of rule. And now, when you look back, you wonder, was it worth it? Luxury can be a strange prison. The softest bed feels like stone when sleep refuses to come. The richest food tastes like dust when your heart is weary. Gold cannot warm you in the cold silence of night. Jewels cannot ease the ache in your bones. Power cannot stop the slow advance of age. You sit surrounded by treasures that would make any peasant gape in wonder, yet you feel poorer than the farmer who laughs with his children by the fire. There are moments of pride, of course, when you walk into the temple and the people bow as one. When the priests raise hymns in your honor, when a new obelisk is raised with your name carved deep in stone, you feel the greatness of your role. You are remembered, recorded, immortalized. Yet even then, a whisper lingers in your mind. What good is eternity carved in stone when your own body withers and fades? The crown that once seemed like a gift now feels like a burden. You cannot remove it, even in sleep. Even when you lie in bed, weary and aching, the invisible weight rests on your head. You are Pharaoh in every moment, in every breath, until your last. And though the court still treats you as divine, you know the truth. You are mortal. You will die. And so you begin to think of death more often. Not with fear, but with curiosity, with resignation. You know that your tomb is being built even now, deep in the Valley of the Kings. Each stone cut and carried, each chamber carved with sacred texts, each chest filled with treasures to guide you to the afterlife. The workers labor day after day, not knowing if you will live long enough to see it completed. You picture the paintings on the walls, the golden sarcophagus, the jars of food and drink, the statues of servants that will accompany you, all of it meant to preserve you for eternity. Yet you wonder, when you step into the afterlife, will you finally be free of the crown? Or will it follow you even there, pressing down forever, binding you to rule in death as you did in life? 30. Luxury of your palace, the endless treasures, the feasts, the dances, the perfumes. All of it is meant to remind you of your greatness. Yet sometimes it reminds you only of what you have lost. The simple joys of freedom, of rest, of honest laughter, of love without duty. You sit in rooms painted with gold, yet you long for something no artist can create. The heavy crown remains, unshakable, unyielding. It defines you, but it also consumes you. You are both master and prisoner, ruler and captive, God and man. And, as the years weigh heavier, you realize that perhaps the greatest cost of being Pharaoh is not the endless work, not the constant rituals, not even the loneliness. It is this, that you can never put down the crown, not even for a single moment, not even when your body cries for rest. And so, you continue. Each day, the same rituals, the same duties, the same endless cycle, surrounded by luxury, yet bound by its chains. Aging beneath the golden crown that shines so brightly in the eyes of others, yet feels heavier with every passing year. This is the truth of being Pharaoh in age. Not just glory and splendor, but weight and weariness, a life gilded on the outside and burdened within. The heavy crown of luxury and age, pressing down until your final breath. Power always attracts danger. The greater the throne, the deeper the shadows that gather around it. Inside the golden walls of the palace, life may seem secure. Guards line the corridors, scribes record every word, priests offer blessings for protection. Yet beneath the surface, fear flows quietly, like an underground river, for even a pharaoh is never safe from enemies. The palace is filled with whispers. Servants carry trays of food, sweep the floors, and adjust the curtains. But their ears are always open. A careless word spoken in confidence may travel quickly through unseen channels. One day it may return to you, twisted into a rumor, sharpened into a threat. Courtiers bow deeply when you pass, yet behind their lowered eyes, some measure every gesture, searching for weakness, calculating advantage. The nobles of Egypt are powerful in their own right, governors of provinces, commanders of armies, high priests who control vast temples and their wealth. Each one owes loyalty to you, but each one also dreams of more. They smile when you reward them. They kneel when you punish them. Yet in their hearts, some plot quietly, waiting for the moment when the balance shifts. And then there is the royal family itself, wives, concubines, sons, daughters, all bound by blood, yet not always by loyalty. A queen may scheme to see her son on the throne, even if it means the fall of others. A prince may grow restless, gathering supporters in secret, whispering that his father has grown too old, too weak, too weary to rule. Concubines may spread rumors, slaves may carry secrets, tutors may influence young heirs with dangerous ideas. At night, when the palace grows still, you sometimes feel it most. The flickering torchlight casts long shadows on the painted walls. The guards stand silent at their posts, but you wonder, if an enemy offered them gold, would they remain loyal? You drink from a cup of wine and pause, tasting carefully. Was the sweetness as it should be? Or was something hidden in it, something that would stop your breath? Pharaohs in the past have fallen not only in battle, but also in their own palaces. A trusted servant slips poison into a dish. A favored wife conspires with courtiers. A brother, once loyal, raises an army in secret. The throne of Egypt is high, but it is also precarious. To wear the crown is to invite not only worship, but envy, hatred, and plots. Every day you must watch carefully. You learn to read faces, to hear what is not spoken. A scribe hesitates before presenting a report. Does it mean he fears your anger, or that he is hiding something? A governor delays tribute from his province. Was the harvest poor? Or is he keeping grain for himself? A priest speaks too loudly about the will of the gods. Does he serve Amun, or does he seek to weaken your authority? You employ spies, though no one calls them that openly. Trusted servants who wander the palace halls, guards who listen at doors, scribes who read between the lines of letters. They bring you fragments of information, a whisper overheard in the servants' quarters, a strange meeting between two officials, a gift exchanged in secret. These fragments form a picture, but never a complete one. The truth is always half hidden, like the moon behind drifting clouds. Even the gods are drawn into palace intrigue. Priests may declare that Amun, or Ra, or Osiris favors a certain prince as heir. Such declarations are not only spiritual, but political, shaping the loyalties of the court. At times you must challenge them, reminding the priest that you, not they, are the living embodiment of divine will. At other times, you must play carefully, granting them favor to keep their loyalty. For in Egypt, the priesthood is nearly as powerful as the throne. The most dangerous enemies are often the closest. A servant who dresses you each morning could slip a knife between your ribs. A cupbearer who pours your wine could add poison to the jug. A concubine who shares your bed could whisper your secrets to another. And so, you must live always on guard. You eat only after your food has been tasted by others. You drink only from vessels brought directly to you. You sleep with guards at your chamber doors. Trust is a rare gift, given to only a few, and even then never without doubt. And yet you cannot show fear. To rule Egypt, you must appear unshakable. The people must believe that you are divine, eternal, untouchable. If they sense weakness, if they see fear in your eyes, the illusion breaks. And when the illusion breaks, power itself begins to slip away. So you wear your crown, smile at your courtiers, speak with confidence, and carry yourself as if no shadow could ever reach you. All the while, you know the truth, that shadows creep closer every day. Sometimes, in quieter moments, you wonder if it is worth it. Would life not be easier as a farmer, a craftsman, a soldier? To rise with the sun, to work with your hands, to eat in peace, to sleep without fear of poison or betrayal. But then you remember, the farmer answers to the tax collector, the craftsman to his guildmaster, the soldier to his captain. Every life has its burdens. Yours is simply greater, heavier, and far more dangerous. The palace is beautiful, yes, filled with painted halls, golden statues, and perfumed gardens. But beneath its beauty lies tension. Every polished stone, every column carved with sacred scenes, hides the restless beating of human ambition. To outsiders, the palace is a place of majesty. To you, it is also a cage of whispers and shadows. And so, you learn to live with it. You sit upon the throne, surrounded by those who bow and praise, even as some secretly plot your downfall. You drink the wine, knowing it may hold poison. You walk the halls, knowing that any shadow may hide betrayal. You smile at your family, knowing that some may dream of your crown more than your love. This is the hidden truth of power. The higher the throne, the deeper the shadows. Pharaoh is worshipped as a god, yet lives each day surrounded by silent plots. And so, our journey through the life of an Egyptian pharaoh draws to its end. From the moment of your royal birth, through years of study, rivalry, battles, marriage, and endless duty, your days were shaped by power and shadow. You lived not for yourself, but for the throne, for Egypt, for the gods who demanded ceaseless devotion. At first it seemed like privilege, a golden life of palaces, jewels, and servants. But behind the glitter was struggle. Brothers turned to rivals. Advisors whispered their own ambitions. Priests weighed your worth against omens. Even in moments of triumph, the burden was heavy. To be pharaoh was not to live freely, but to carry the weight of an entire kingdom upon your shoulders. Every sunrise brought new challenges. Endless councils, petitions from subjects, offerings to the gods, and matters of war and peace. Even your personal life was bound by duty. Your marriage, your children, your every decision was made for the sake of Egypt, not for yourself. And always there lingered the shadows of betrayal, the quiet threat that power might one day slip away. Yet, for all its struggles, your life left a mark that time itself could not erase. Temples rose with your name carved into their stones. Statues bore your likeness, standing tall and unyielding. Your deeds, both great and small, became part of Egypt's long story, woven into the fabric of the Nile's eternal flow. In the end, even a pharaoh meets death, as all mortals must. You prepared your tomb carefully, filling it with treasures, food, and prayers, believing it would carry you safely into the afterlife. You hoped that Osiris would judge you kindly, that your heart would balance against the feather of truth. You hoped your name would endure, spoken by future generations, so that your soul might live on forever. Now, centuries have passed, and your palaces have crumbled into ruins. Sand has swallowed temples. Tombs lie hidden beneath desert hills. Yet, still, the world remembers your struggles, your burdens, your victories, and your fears. They have not been lost. They echo quietly through history, teaching us that even the greatest among us carried heavy chains. As you rest now in the silence of eternity, the weight has finally lifted. No more counsels, no more whispers of betrayal, no more endless rituals, only stillness and the slow, eternal rhythm of the Nile. And for you, listening here in the present, safe in your own world, perhaps there is comfort in this reflection. Life in the past was filled with hardship, but your life is different. You do not bear the crown of Egypt. You are free to rest, to close your eyes, to let history fade into dreams. So breathe deeply, slowly. Let the weight of the Pharaoh's story drift away. The sand settles, the torches dim, and the palace grows quiet. In the silence of the night, let yourself rest, knowing that the past is behind you, and peace is here, now. And if you wish to, wander again through the strange, forgotten corners of history. Remember to subscribe and return for another boring history for sleep. Each story is another path into the past, another gentle journey to carry you toward rest. Good night.